Hello, and welcome to the Business Expo Learning Stage. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan, for helping make this event possible. We're excited to have you join us today and want to encourage you to ask any questions you may have. You may do so by using the Q&A button located on the right-hand side of your screen. All questions will be answered at the end of the webinar today. Also, a friendly reminder that this webinar will be recorded and posted to our Traverse Connect YouTube page within 24 hours. Our next speaker will be Kathy Grinsteiner, presenting Building Resilience in Times of Uncertainty. Kathy Grinsteiner is the Provider Engagement Manager for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan and Blue Care Network's Northern and West Michigan region. She also leads a frontline leadership program, coaching program for the operational areas. She holds a master's degree in communication arts from Grand Valley State University. Kathy has created and delivered a number of skill building presentations for local chambers and employer groups. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you, Jody. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here with you today. I appreciate you joining me. We really are living in uncertain times. Regardless of your political affiliation or your opinion about mask wearing or the like, there's that tension that sometimes feels constant, and it can really throw our lives into a feeling of imbalance. However, I don't know about you, but one of the positive things I've noticed through this pandemic is that it's really helped to strengthen some of my relationships. I'm connecting virtually with friends who live out of town more than I ever have before, and even unexpected relationships have blossomed, like with the UPS driver. I'm doing so much of my shopping online that I see him more than I do almost anyone else. He's dropping off so many packages that my husband's starting to wonder what's going on. And I just told him a package a day helps keep COVID away, but so far I don't think he's buying it. In all seriousness, I want you to think through your own journey since the middle of March. The range of experiences and emotions has really hit us all in similar yet different ways. I think we all thought, okay, I can get through, even welcome, a few months without so much hustle and bustle. Then it started to become clear that the pandemic was going to affect our lives for a very long time. And that really came with a roller coaster of emotions about what the reality of that really means. I mean, one thing is for sure, across the globe, no one's been left untouched by this pandemic. Individuals and businesses are facing widespread uncertainty and transformation. We're all expected to keep pace with all the changes in the workplace, adapt to new technology and new processes, stay engaged, stay productive, while at the same time, we're riding our own emotional roller coaster. You've probably heard the saying, we're all in this together, but it doesn't mean we're in the same boat. This experience is really different for each of us. I find myself bouncing between feelings of bliss and gratitude, and then suddenly I'm hit with waves of depression, anxiety. And the uncertainty of it all has us reeling. I mean, maybe you know people who've tested positive, and some even unfortunately who passed away. I personally know 2 people who've died, one at 35 years old with 2 small children and a wife, and one at 65, and neither had known pre-existing conditions. Businesses are facing economic uncertainty, which impacts all of us in different ways. Schools are having to make tough decisions about online versus classroom learning, and that has an impact on so many people. The changes we're all facing at work are compounded by stressors in our personal lives, and for many of us, those two are intertwined as we find ourselves working from home. And then there are those of you who are dealing with all the craziness of trying to navigate schooling for your children and keep them from killing each other and resisting eating a dozen donuts in one sitting. I really feel for you, each and every one of you. I started researching this topic of resilience in early April as a way to find tools to help myself through it all. And then I turned it into a presentation with the hope that it'll help others as well. So let me share my screen here. And Jody, can you just confirm that you can see my screen?
I can, yep.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, very good. So today we're going to talk about a bit about what resilience is, why it should matter to us, and how to strengthen or build it up. And then I'm going to give you a little information about additional resources you can look into if you're interested in more information on the topic. So what is resilience? Now, I wish we were a meeting in person so we could have this dialogue, but we're going to make do with the chat feature. If you could, please type in a few words or a sentence on how what resilience actually means to you. And then Jody will read those off to me.
So some of the comments, Kathy, we see flexibility, adaptability, that's it so far.
Okay, all right, thank you. So resilience is really about the ability to recover from or easily adjust to misfortune or change. I love Brené Brown.
More, Kathy. Let me
Okay,
give
go
you
ahead.
some more.
Yeah, please.
Resilience is bouncing back after facing adversity. Another person posted the word faith. Using past experiences to support you through change. Strength through change. And another vote for strength.
I love that. One of the ones that I keep hearing more often is the word hope, as it enters into the chat feature often when I present this topic. So thank you all for your responses. You're all dead on. I follow Brené Brown a lot, and I'm sure many of you do. And I really love what she has to say about resilience. She said, the most resilient people have a tolerance for discomfort. We need to have an acceptance that our drive, this insatiable appetite for comfort and happiness, does not reconcile with who we are as people. Sometimes we have to do tough things, feel our way through tough situations, and we have to feel tough emotions. So I want you to think about it this way. Even when something small happens that doesn't align with what you expected, let's say a teammate discounts something you say in a meeting, or a friend disses you, or you make a mistake or even fail on a project, that always triggers an emotional reaction. It might come out externally with negative words or actions, or internally like devouring a tub of ice cream, or retreating and hiding under the covers, maybe with a tub of ice cream. When we look at resilience as a whole, it has to do with our ability to adapt well in a time of crisis, and then quickly recover to our pre-crisis state. So I want you to think about that for a second. It's about adapting well, which is the key word in that sentence, and then returning to a pre-crisis state. I actually think it's more about adapting and moving forward, taking that knowledge and that information that you gained. But if we're just barely keeping our head above water, treading water to make it out of a tough situation, that's not being resilient. When we're resilient, there's this overall sense of well-being, of wellness. And that's what we're going to talk about today, the idea of building resilience so that we have wellness. So let's take a look at some ideas of what resilience looks like in real life. It is adapting and adjusting our planning as needed. So even something as simple as when you're on a fabulous vacation, if you remember what those were, and bad weather hits, how do you handle it? Some get upset and gripe, and others shift to indoor activities. They have an, oh, well, I can't control it mindset. It's about bouncing back after withstanding a shock or surprise, experiencing change and purposely adjusting our outlook and our behavior. And that key word here is purposefully. Do you let negative self-talk take over, or do you intentionally change the way you look at it? Being resilient can be tangible. It's like focusing on meeting a goal. Even or especially when times are tough, working towards a goal, whether it might be a degree that you want to achieve or even adhering to an exercise plan, that's a sign of resilience. Planning and assessing different outcomes and risks, again, That's about strategy, knowing that everything we plan isn't going to work out the way we hope. So do we have a plan B at the ready? Preparing ourselves physically and mentally to protect our overall well-being. All of these descriptions play a really important role in understanding resilience. And you may have noticed there are 3 words that I've used that throughout this, and that has to do with being purposeful, intentional, and strategic. So again, in chat, tell me, why is it important to be resilient?
I'll give people a little more time this time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It's too quick.
I don't mind being interrupted though, so whatever works.
Okay.
Anything coming in yet, Jody?
I have one comment says to grow.
Mhm.
One, this was mine, to model for our children.
Wow.
To be, yeah, someone else commented to raise resilient children and lead by example.
Yeah.
To protect your
Yes.
mental health.
To protect your mental health. Yeah. I mean, it isn't about something happening to me. It's about preparing for that storm without knowing what form that storm is going to take. It puts forth that idea that I have ownership, that yes, some things happen that I can't control, but I have ownership about how I handle it.
Yeah, we had one come in that was change is inevitable.
We've learned that this year. Go ahead.
Right. To grow and become a stronger person. And another one for growth. And oh, this one, resilience is for the long-term game of life.
That's deep. I love it. Thank you. This is where opportunity really lies here, is that resilience is developed through self-awareness, introspection, and vulnerability. So self-awareness and introspection are about knowing who you are and about what your triggers are. And it's about knowing when to exercise self-care. For me, that might be having a bonfire. That might be a video chat with a close friend, or a walk in the woods, or taking the Jeep out in the woods, or whatever feeds your soul. So it's important to know what that is, but even more importantly, it's about being able to recognize early on when you need it, so that you're not already too far down that road and then it no longer feeds you. So it's just important to know what it is and when you need it ahead of time. Vulnerability is around recognizing that you have feelings and emotions and reactions. It's letting yourself feel things, even ugly things like fear and uncertainty, and being willing to let others in so they can support you. And bottom line is, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So even with the littlest things, when there isn't congruence, when things don't align how I want them to be, when change happens that I can't control, that's an opportunity to build resilience. So I need to know what my triggers are. And when I start to feel some of these negative emotional reactions, it's about that self-control, starting with self-awareness. So I stop and I gather myself and I ask, what's going on here? What am I feeling? What's driving it? And am I responding in a way that aligns with my values? If we aren't capturing what's driving it, sometimes it's hard to even name the feelings that we're feeling because they're all swirling around. But if we at least know what's driving it, what's going on, and we give ourselves the space to feel those feelings and then say, okay, am I reacting in a way that aligns with who I am?
Yeah, Kathy, I saw a good comment in here. Vulnerability does not equal weakness.
Oh gosh, absolutely. Vulnerability is the key to courage. And again, anybody who follows Brené Brown knows this. You cannot exhibit courage without being vulnerable first. So it is absolutely not weakness. Thank you for that. So this is where there's the difference between a reaction and a response. And this is where resilience comes into play. A reaction is a triggered emotion. A response is disciplined, thought out. So think about that even as it relates to a social media post that really gets your blood boiling. I'm sure every single one of us have had that in the last number of weeks to months. Do you immediately react and then sometimes go and delete it later and regret it? Or do you recognize the importance of stepping away and deciding later whether you want to respond, and how to do it in a way that keeps the relationship intact, assuming you want to keep that relationship intact? Do you find yourself sometimes filled with regret that maybe because you're reacting to a trigger rather than responding in a disciplined way? So the more we choose the latter, in other words, response, the more our resilience grows. So the more we're self-aware and the more we practice looking inward on small things that are incongruent, the more resilience we build, so that when big, ugly, hairy things like a pandemic come at us, we are much more prepared to weather that storm. If we don't learn how to acknowledge and name feelings of discomfort and name feelings of vulnerability, name feelings of fear, then we end up expressing them in outward ways that can cause harm to ourselves or others. They can play out through angry outbursts, addiction, even arrogance or perfectionism, all in this attempt to control our environment when we feel helpless. I mean, perhaps there are people in your lives that have acted in a surprising and negative way in the last 8 or 9 months. They may be 100% sure that masks don't work, or the opposite. And you see conflicts between people that surprised you and maybe even saddened you. And you can take this even further into the political scene or the racial divide that's plaguing our country. Sometimes people act like they're 100% sure about something because they can't stand not being in control of their environment. So speaking of control, many of you may be already familiar with Stephen Covey's work around control, influence, and concern. It dates back many years, but the concept is something that I intentionally try to live my life around. So I work for a company of 9,000 employees. And if I didn't focus on, okay, is this within my control or can I influence it? And if I can't spend my energy on it. And pretty much everything in our world tends to fall into one of those 3 categories. Either I can control it, I can influence it, and if neither of those, then it's within my circle of concern. So examples of what is within my circle of control are the words I use, my tone, my actions and reactions, my perspective, choices that I make, like my job, or whether I go back to school, my relationship status, where I live. Do I live in the city or do I live in the country? Who I let be close to me, going for a walk or other kind of exercise, whether I seek help when I need it, how much time I spend watching the news or how much time I spend on social media. My work performance is within my control. And examples of things that are within my circle of influence are other people's political views. I'm just kidding on that. You can't influence that. How others treat me, building a network and social connections. I can also influence my own health. And if I do a good job, I can influence how customers view the company I work for. And then if I can't control it and I can't influence it, examples of what would be within my circle of concern are the pandemic, whether our country goes to war, the larger economy, job loss, the health of others, how others see me. The more time I spend focusing my energy on one circle, that circle gets bigger and the others get smaller. So if I spend a lot of energy on what's within my circle of concern, that tends to lessen my focus on what's within my circles of control and influence. So it actually makes them smaller and it makes my circle of concern bigger. But if I spend my time and energy on what I can control and influence and not what I can't, that's how I build resiliency. There's really is a direct connection between the two. So there are many different models out there, but this one really hits home for me. I found it on LinkedIn. Someone way smarter than me put it together. I asked for permission to use it. And I wanted to share this concept with you because I feel like it gives you a little bit more of a tangible look at resilience. So there are thought to be 6 domains. The most important is vision. Vision is about your sense of purpose, your goals, your personal vision for yourself. And the reason why that's the most important domain is that all other domains are guided by what it is you want to achieve. So having clarity in that domain allows you to be decisive when facing tough choices and to maintain perspective. Your vision needs to be clear and simple though, so that it can keep you focused, because it's really easy to get distracted by unimportant details when you don't have something specific that you're working toward. So after all, if you don't have anything else planned, why not binge on Netflix, right? Vision is about having clarity, so when things get tough, you know what's important and what isn't, so you can stay focused to achieve your goals. And congruence means that all of your actions are working together across your larger vision of yourself and your sense of purpose through all of your medium and short-term goals. So when you don't have clarity on these, it's likely that some of your goals are going to conflict with each other, and that can really result in frustration, because moving towards one goal can sometimes move you further away from the other. So you have to know which one's most important. So a simple example of that might be someone who wants to finish their degree, but keeps finding themselves too busy to take classes. Maintaining your composure. That's all about regulating emotions. So the brain has this fight or flight response that loves to flare up when facing conflict or hearing about a sudden change. And I'm sure you've all heard about fight or flight. But being able to overcome that instinctive emotional response and maintain composure, it often means being able to recognize hidden opportunities and solve problems in new ways. And that's because becoming emotional prevents you from properly accessing your ability to think critically. So composure isn't about just the big crises that we face, but the little everyday things too. So an example of that is getting emotional in a traffic jam. We all know it isn't useful, so why do we bother getting worked up? We know logically that we shouldn't, but we sometimes let emotions take over. So maintaining composure means keeping calm so you can save your energy for what's important. And the more you can work on maintaining your composure when you experience small triggers like a bit of road rage, then the stronger your resilience muscle becomes. I love the idea of interpretation bias. So I have an employee who freaks out if I say, "I need to talk to you, call me later." She immediately thinks she's in trouble, although to be honest, she's never gotten in trouble once in the 7 years I've worked with her. Or she thinks she's going to get fired. I mean, my statement is actually neutral. I just say, "Give me a call later." So there's no direct implied negativity. It could just as easily be good news. And research shows that a natural inclination to negatively interpret situations makes people 6 times more likely to show symptoms of depression, while a positive interpretation bias results in higher resilience. So let's talk about reasoning. This is where creativity and innovative problem solving are incredibly useful when facing challenges along the way. That's where the reasoning domain is all about. It needs composure for you to keep cool, as well as vision, so you know what goals to direct your actions toward. So like composure, it's not just about applying critical thinking during a crisis. It's also about taking action ahead of time to prevent things from going wrong in the first place. In fact, it's mostly about proactive action. And apparently, given the toilet paper shortage, a lot of people were good at being proactive to avoid a crisis, just saying. Resourcefulness is a skill we need to actively build on. And the more resourceful we are, the easier it is to make unusual connections between things and find innovative ways going forward. When I think of resourcefulness, I think of farmers and those with engineering minds. I really admire them. I mean, you may think of people who are on shows like Naked and Afraid or Survivor, or my favorite show, Alone, or Amazing Race is a great show as well that really puts people to the test when it comes to being resourceful. So my husband grew up on a farm, and farmers are great at finding a million uses for one piece of equipment, or making tables out of scrap wood. We were kayaking one time and we forgot to bring can koozies. And he found a paper map in the back of our Jeep and used duct tape to make koozies. So it's that kind of thing. When you're resourceful on small things, then you can build resourcefulness so you're more prepared for the bigger things too. High reasoning ability means that a changing environment is welcome since it always brings hidden opportunities. By maintaining your composure and knowing what you want to achieve, change is no longer perceived as a threat. And you can look for things with a fresh perspective. So I love tenacity. It's really where persistence is the key here. Einstein had pointed out the importance of persistence when he said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." So it's important to be able to objectively look at our mistakes, find lessons in them, not define ourselves by them. The past is there to learn from, not to dwell on. And I know it's easier said than done. What is most useful for success is to have a sense of realistic optimism, meaning you're hopeful about your ability to succeed, but you realize that the road will be tough and full of challenges. I mean, every one of you has probably taken on a project that isn't well defined, and it's a little scary and exciting, but you know it won't be easy, but you do it anyway because you fill yourself with a sense of realistic optimism. Collaboration is really around being social beings. The brain has this deep fundamental need for connection with others in order to be able to thrive. So few of us can achieve anything meaningful alone. It's really crucial for us to build support networks, not just social networks, but true support networks. So we can both have a safety net and also be that safety net for others. I found it fascinating to learn that research shows that when it comes to peace of mind, it's not actual available support that matters, but instead it's the perception of available support that's important. So even if I have 100 people ready to support me, if I don't realize that, I don't feel supported. So it's important to keep that in mind for others as well and show the people you care for that you're there to support them. I know for me, a lot of people think of me as a really strong, independent person, and they think, well, she'll let me know when she needs me. But sometimes people who portray themselves as the strongest on the outside are the ones who need to be checked in on occasion. So definitely keep that in mind when you're looking at maintaining your support network. So down at the bottom is good health. That's the foundational domain. It's really about looking after your body through what you eat, through exercise, and getting good quality sleep. And that can be really hard sometimes when we have so many things going through our mind is getting good quality sleep and really focusing on our health and nutrition. Good health is not the ultimate goal itself, it's the enabler to achieve your larger personal vision. And what's great about these domains is we absolutely have the capacity to build and improve every domain and therefore develop our own resilience. And I think it's important to realize that resilience is a journey, it's not a destination. We're constantly working our way towards building that and growing that and strengthening that. So most of you have probably heard the song Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. This song was written at a very tumultuous time for the band. Roger Waters wrote it because of a loss he was feeling when their lead singer was spiraling into mental illness due to a really bad LSD addiction. And for many years, there are two lines in the song that really resonate with me. The first starts with, "Did they get you to trade?" And then it's got some additional lyrics, and then it says, "Cold comfort for change." Sometimes we get complacent, we get comfortable, and even though we aren't happy, we stay there. That's cold comfort. Change shakes us up, and sometimes we're afraid. But do we want to be comfortable and stay cold, or do we want to change? So the other line is, "Did you exchange a walk-on part in the war for a leading role in a cage?" And that was Roger Waters' way of saying that he wants to be in it, even if it's messy and ugly. He sees that as a far better life than one that's watching and directing from the sidelines. And beyond that, this song really pulls at my heartstrings right now because I'm missing people big time. I miss hugs. I miss getting together with my friends. Virtually is great, but in person is so much better. And because I think it's always better when a song is sung rather than having lyrics read to you, I twisted my husband's arm and asked him to sing Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd for you. His name is Scott.
So you think you can tell heaven from hell, blue skies from pain? Can't tell green field, cold steel rain, smile from a veil. Do you think you can tell that they get you to trade your heroes for gold, hot ashes for trees, hot air for a cool breeze, cold comfort for change, you exchange, walk on hard and woe, leaf roll in a cave. I wish you were here. We're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl. Year after year, running over the same old grounds. Have we found same old fear? Wish you were here.
So I want to share some additional resources with you in case you had an interest in exploring this topic even further. So there's a book, a podcast, and an article here. And then also Blue Cross Blue Shield is doing a session on November 19th on resilience in the workplace as well. And that's open to everyone, regardless of whether you're a Blue Cross customer or not. So lastly, I would just say have patience with others, give grace. People handle challenging times very differently. People are scared and worried, and you have the opportunity to influence everyone around you. So be as positive as you can while still being true to your emotions. Today I heard a new word and I wanted to share it with you, and it's called humacity. And it's the merger of the word humility with the word curiosity. So I think it's important whenever we're moving forward in life and we're engaging with people that we practice humacity. The better off, I mean, we're all gonna be better off for doing that. So I wanna thank you for your time and attention, and I'll turn it back over to Jody.
Thanks, Kathy. And I wanted to let you know there were virtual applause was coming in for Scott during his performance.
I will pass that on, thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And I think a really nice break for everybody today. That was awesome. If anyone has questions, if you'd like to put those in the Q&A or the chat, I can see both. We're getting comments about humacity, love it. That's terrific. I know one of the takeaways I had was just from back at the beginning when you said getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's, you know, it's easy to say, it's going to be hard to do. It's something you learn as we go along. But yeah, I think that's really critical.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy how when you think about, you know, every time, I'll just use Blue Cross as an example. So we might go through a systems change, and that systems change may feel like like the heaviest thing that I'm dealing with right at that moment, and it's impacting our members and our providers, and then we fix that, and then we have the next issue, right? And so it's kind of like that in terms of knowing that there are always going to be challenges in life, always, where none of us are going to get through this without, you know, being bruised in some way. So how do we make sure that we put ourselves in a position of knowing that that's going to happen, find joy where we find joy, even in times of chaos and change and uncertainty, figure out where that joy comes from. I really love that concept that I said around figuring out what it is you need and making sure that you're filling that before you need it, or putting it on your calendar and scheduling it so that you do it. So we do have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable if we haven't yet.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right about that. I don't see any questions coming in.
Okay.
So did you have any final words?
I don't. I think the only thing I would say is I really appreciate everyone's time. I know it's difficult to carve out time on your calendars. I really appreciate everything that Traverse Connect puts forward and does for our community. I also want to put a plug in for this Building Resilience session is the first of a wellness series that our professional development committee is launching. There will be one coming up in December. Christine Wilmoth from Pine Rest, she's a clinic manager here in Traverse City, and she's going to be presenting around stress and how to handle the holidays during these times. I think it's going to be a really great presentation. And we've got one a month that we're in the process of finalizing the scheduling on through March. So please do keep an eye out for that and join us when you can.
That's great information. Thank you. So everyone, you can find that information at traverseconnect.com under our events tab. And as soon as that is ready, that webinar is ready, it'll be up on the schedule. So you can register to attend that. Yeah, that'll be terrific. So
All right.
I think we'll wrap up. Thank you again, Kathy, for joining us today.
My
We really
pleasure.
appreciate your time in sharing your information with us. Again, we'd also like to thank Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Michigan for making this event possible. We hope all of you enjoyed the learning stage and encourage you to check out our future webinars that are coming up. We have 3 more this afternoon, so stay tuned. And in addition, our other features in the virtual expo today. Thank you all for attending. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to see you at our next webinar. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye,
Jody.
Kathy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.